I've seen this issue everywhere with people who are struggling on their builds. They tell me they've grabbed everything that I have. They have all the same gear, the same tree and gems, but their build looks nothing like Mr. Broadcaster's. There's a few ways to go about solving this issue. We're going to talk about 4 of them today. The first and most obvious is that you don't really have everything the same. Obviously, aside from the rare gear differences that make no difference, you are missing something that is creating a large difference in what you perceive to be Mr. Broadcaster's build and what your build actually is. The first issue I commonly encounter is players thinking there are things that are just not that important to the build. Some examples of this are not using Wither Step to reset elusive on crit, or not getting elusive on crit on their boots. Maintaining high elusive for move speed or for damage for Nightblade can make a build go from sluggish and boring to zooming and a blast to play. Skill gems in a build guide are very rigid. If you're following a good content creator, they will fill every single gem slot on that build's gear with important gems. So changing these around or outright skipping them could lead to huge losses in damage, survival, or clear. The second issue I've been encountering by reviewing POBs on my live stream, twitch.tv/tripolarbear, is that a lot of people completely ignore flask mods when they can be some of the easiest and most impactful defenses you can add to your character for mapping. Full stop. 99% of builds should be using the Flagellant mod on their flasks, except Mageblood and Soul Thirst memers. This is the only way to generate reliable charges on bosses, and the easiest way to keep up flasks all of the time. 100% of builds should then also be using good suffixes on their flasks. This means increased armor and or evasion rating, reduced curse effect, attack and cast speed, and critical strike chance. These 2 things combined together can give you so much character power, and it's up 100% of the time because of that Flagellant mod. So please do not underestimate the power of having your flasks up all the time and having those flasks be super extra powerful. You should be looking to spend at least 50 chaos on each and every one of your flasks, or you should be looking to alteration spam them yourselves until they are good enough, starting with a good item level base of 83 or higher. The third issue that I encounter when I review POBs on my live stream is that their gear is just bad, and this isn't meant to hurt your feelings and should not be taken as if I'm calling you something derogatory. Your gear is just shit, and you need to accept that, all right? Look at your rings, your gloves, your helmets and boots. Be honest with yourself. How many useful mods are on each of your pieces of gear? Strip away everything until you have your bare bones picture of the mods on your gear. Some of you might only have 2 good mods and a craft on your helmet. That's a shitty helmet. You have 2 res and crafted life on your ring. That's a shitty ring. Having gear like that can be okay for a while, but you'll eventually encounter problems when you try to upgrade your gear, and you'll have to change 3 other slots because you need strength on those other 2 instead of just having strength on 1 single piece of gear. The solution here is to combine or buy better gear. Try to look to spend about 1 exalt or more on every slot. And I know that sounds like a lot, but if you're doing any elk and go alongside an expedition strategy, this should be easy to obtain after 4 or more hours of mapping. Once you get triple T2 or T1 res on your rings with life and minus mana cost, it will feel like you've been unshackled from the chains that bind you and your build. You'll be able to replace another gear slot so much easier. Now, on your gloves, you'll be able to get 2 tier 1 resistances and a T2 stat with life. And that frees up points on your tree for even more life and damage, which brings us to issue 4. If you're spending points for stats on the tree and you don't have T1 stats everywhere on your character and on your clusters, then you need to get better gear. This is especially true if you're putting points onto the tree for resistance, and that includes chaos res. This will be alleviated so much if you just get better gear slots, right? Try to get very dense gear slots. Triple suffixes with life, and then you get a nice prefix craft for damage or for hybrid life or something else. The last thing I'll leave you with today, and if you take nothing else away from this video, you have to take this last point away. I want you, when you encounter this problem, to open up 2 path of buildings. Go to the calculations tab and compare your character's POB to Mr. Broadcaster's POB. Hover over the increased damage for physical and see how much yours is lagging behind. Are you missing 80% increased physical damage versus the streamer's POB? Hover that and find out exactly where you're missing that increased damage. You might be missing some minus resistance or some crit multi. Find out where and how much. Maybe your critical strike chance isn't 100% and you can't figure out why. Go to both POBs and hover the critical strike chance in the calculations tab to find out exactly where with laser targeted precision, right? It will tell you point by point. It will add it all up for you. All you've got to do is have both of them open, and it's incredibly easy if you have two monitors. If you don't, go half and half. Anyways, I hope this was helpful and can alleviate some of the stress you might be having by trying to follow Mr. Broadcaster's POB. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.